Hello, it is Jack Gill and welcome to Redmen Academy. This is obviously part two of our Premier League youngsters to watch. You obviously saw us do the first five Premier League teams yesterday. We're now going to do the next five. Obviously, we're going through these in alphabetical order. If you found this one and you obviously want to watch the first one, you want to watch them chronologically, you just go over and watch that one we posted yesterday. So, James, did you find any other names after yesterday's video or not?
I haven't looked back since. I've got some good names for today. Some lads who might be under the radar, breaking through over the next sort of 12, 18 months.
Yeah, we have more teams today that obviously have very good under 23 setups. We spoke about a couple of teams yesterday where obviously it was quite difficult to find stats.
Yeah.
I found a lot of these teams a lot easier.
Yeah.
We spoke about a lot of these players already on the youth show at times this season. So we're going to get started with Chelsea, who obviously we brought Chelsea up in yesterday's video. They have a very, very good academy, and obviously it was very hard to narrow it down to two players considering the size of their academy. That being said, me and James happened to pick one of the same player. But I just want to do a special mention, obviously, to Chelsea. I think the way that Frank Lampard has gone into that team and used a lot of their youth talents this season is very, very good. Obviously, there's a lot of players that are young in their starting lineup at the minute. You got Kurt Azumi, you got Mason Mount, who's 21, you got Abraham, 22, Tomori, 22, Callum Hudson-Odoi. He's had a difficult season with injury, obviously, 19. And Frank Lampard's James continues to use a lot of youth players, doesn't he?
Yeah, we kind of expected it going into the season, but I didn't think there'd be as many youngsters being relied upon. But I guess his hand was sort of made for him, wasn't he? Really losing Gary Cahill over the summer, he didn't have a choice but to throw Tomori into it, plus the system he uses. It seemed like he was always going to get minutes once Cahill was out the door. But then using these lads, like, I was going to talk about Billy Gilmore in a minute. I don't think anyone would have expected him to really burst on the scene so soon, given his age and his frame. But to see him get minutes, it's good to see players getting brought in and then getting minutes, because all the time with Chelsea, we see lads come in and then they end up going out on loan and never really see them again until they're about 22 playing in the Championship.
Absolutely. I think it's been brilliant this season from Frank Lampard. I think where they are in the league as well is a testament to him and how he's done. They've had a lot of injuries and had to turn to academy players at times. And listen, you brought up a young lad there, Billy Gilmore, and he's the one we both picked. And I think due to the timing of recording this video, it was very hard not to pick Billy Gilmore. I think he's a player that obviously will be affected more than many others by this coronavirus outbreak, because before it, he'd just put in two man of the match performance in a row in his first two starts for Chelsea. He's a lad that came through the academy at Rangers. Obviously, was signed. I believe it was for like 500, 600k for Chelsea.
Yeah, quite a big fee for a young lad. Yeah.
At the time, everyone was shocked, but the last two games when you've seen him start, he has been brilliant. When he played against us in the FA Cup, he ran the midfield. I thought he was outstanding in that game. Got a lot of plaudits after the game, and then he started against Everton and won man of the match again. Joe Cole, I've got a quote here. James said, "He can be what he wants. I like him in that midfield role, but I think he might eventually develop and play further up the pitch like a 10. He's a massive asset for Chelsea." He's also got 2 goals and 4 assists in 11 Premier League two games this season. But James, the stats don't say it all, do they? He's a brilliant, all-rounded young talent.
Yeah, the kind of player he is, he just keeps things ticking over and he carries the ball from deep and releases it further forward, where he's probably not going to get the goals and assists. He might get the second assist, but he doesn't seem to be directly involved. But that's not really his game. His job is to carry the ball. His job is to protect the ball and, retain possession and give it to the players who are more suited to those attacking roles where they're going to cause problems. But, I mean, looking at him, you can see he's a cracking player. But at the same time, he's going to need to bulk up a little bit, get a bit bigger. But then there's no rush. There's no need. He's 18 years old. No one's expected him to start every Premier League game. Maybe he needs a loan next season to develop that part, because technically he's superb, isn't he?
Yeah, I've got his stats here from the game against us, obviously in the FA Cup where he won man of the match. His first start for Chelsea, he got 77% pass accuracy, 62 touches, 37 passes completed, 5 tackles, 2 take-ons, 2 aerial duels, 2 clearances, and 1 chance created. That's from Squawka Football. He is just 18 years old, James, and a massive, massive talent. Obviously, Chelsea have had a lot of injuries in midfield, which gave him this opportunity. But it's like Frank Lampard said, even if there weren't that many injuries, Gilmour may still have had this opportunity because he's been at a good level this season, and apparently he's been training really well.
Yeah, he's one of those players who I think no matter, you have to ignore the age because technically he's so good, and that's only going to get better. But his levels are both probably where he should be right now and where a lot of other players are. And to be honest, Chelsea aren't massively stacked in midfield, so for him to sort of be maybe their sixth choice right now doesn't really leave him. He leaves him like one rotation away from starting a game, doesn't it? Really, because they do play with like a diamond in midfield. So you'd expect that when the season does resume, he probably will make a few more appearances, wouldn't
With players like Kante and Jorginho in central midfield as well, he's got some excellent players to learn from, and you can only think Billy Gilmour will get better. I think this player will turn into an absolute star in the future. I think we've seen that from his last 2 games, and as I say, it was bad timing for him because I think he could have cemented a starting place for Chelsea. He'll be kicking himself at the moment, but it'll be interesting to see, as you say, whether he goes out on loan or actually, I think he may be a key player for Chelsea in seasons to come. Who was your second pick from Chelsea, James?
I picked Conor Gallagher, who's currently on loan at Swansea. So he's a defensive midfielder, 20 years old. And even though he hasn't played for the first team yet, obviously he spent the first half of the season on loan at Charlton. He scored 6, assisted 4 in 26 games. It was probably the reason why they were rock bottom of the Championship because, they have been involved in a relegation scrap for quite a while now. And then obviously him going to Swansea then, he hasn't scored yet. He's assisted 5 in 10. And you can see that his impact's like instant, and his link up with obviously Brewster as well, who both played together at England youth level. It's throwing sort of Swansea into that contention for the playoffs, isn't it? Really, because they're not too far off as it is, and if they can shoot up the table a little bit more, it'll just increase their chances of going up next season, won't
it? They've been inconsistent in the last few weeks, Swansea, and that was the thing. They seem to win a couple of games and then lose a couple of games. And when you push in for the playoffs, you could do with getting a consistent run of form. But as you say, one thing that has been consistent is Conor Gallagher with providing opportunities for players. And as you say, 5 assists for him. He's done really well since moving there. And the first half of the season, he did all right at Charlton as well. They were very gutted to be losing him. But he made the move to Swansea. He's under Steve Cooper, who he's worked with before, obviously through the England setup. And I think it's a great move for him, James. And as you say, I think he's another player that we'll probably see him get his chance at teams other than Chelsea. Chelsea have an amazing youth setup, and as you say, he's been loaned out twice now, and he's yet to make a first team appearance. So it'll be interesting. But I think with this current manager at Chelsea, I think with Frank Lampard and obviously Jody Morris as his assistant, I think Chelsea youngsters have their best chance. The greatest chance than ever before to make that first team. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in future years with Conor Gallagher. I picked Faustino Andrew, and I've probably butchered his name there, as I always seem to. But he's a player that has been starting to get in and around the first team. He's a player that came off the bench against Everton in Chelsea's last game. He's an 18-year-old attacking midfielder. He has 5 goals and 4 assists in Premier League 2 this season. He's represented England at under-17s, under-18s and under-19s level. He seems like another very good player. Looked good when he came on against Everton. He didn't have too long to play, but he's one of them players that just looks bright. And as I say, his stats look good. So I think he's a man that, as you say, with Chelsea, they have so many youngsters. That it's very, very hard for them to come through, and they could often get loaned out to club after club after club. But it's good to see that this man is clearly making an impression on Frank Lampard, and is clearly in and around the first team right now, James.
Yeah, definitely. You just know that these players are bound to at least get an opportunity to impress, and even if they're not getting game time. They're going to be getting minutes, in training under Lampard, getting a chance to impress. And then even if they drop back down to the 23 level or go out on loan next season, they'll be having opportunities to show why they want to be training with the very best, won't they?
Yeah, we've seen Chelsea as well like to integrate their first team players in the under 23s a lot. We saw when they played against us, putting Batshuayi and Rudiger in there. So, these players, even if they're stuck in the under 23s, at times they're playing with first team players, and that can only help their improvement and their growth as a player. There's so many names we could talk about with Chelsea. We could be here all day just looking at Chelsea, and maybe that's an idea for a future video, James, looking at Chelsea stars. But we'll move on now anyway to Crystal Palace. And first of all, there's a man that me and James both picked. He's a man that's struggled the last 2 years with injuries. James is Luke Dreher.
Yeah, it's not been easy for him. He's 21 years old now, but he's been around for about 4 years now in the under 23 side. I know he became a regular in the 15-16 season. But then obviously this season he's missed nearly the whole year through a knee injury, I believe. But he made his debut on the last game of last season against Bournemouth, I believe. But he's really highly regarded from what I've seen. And if it wasn't for that injury, I think he would have got plenty of minutes this season, especially, with Palace not being overly stacked in midfield. He probably would have, definitely made some cup appearances and then come on in the sub in the Premier League as well. But it's really cruel for him because it's just a horrible injury, and being out for about 8 months at such a sort of pivotal point in his career must do so much damage, for his mental well-being.
Yeah, I read an interview with him before where he said that, as a player, Alan Pardew was a massive, massive fan of him when he was at Crystal Palace, and he was a player that was spoken about a lot. But for the last 2 years or 2.5 years, he's had consistent injury troubles, and it seems to be he starts to make it back up into the first team plans, and then he gets injured again. And as you say, this injury sort of happened at a bad time where it's happened in pre-season. He's made his debut at the last term, and it's one of them situations for him where it's incredibly difficult because he gets injured in pre-season. It's not just a short-term injury either. He's out for the whole season. He's out yet again. It's another long layoff, and he'll be looking to get towards that first team again with Palace. But as you say, 21 years old, and a lot of his development has obviously been delayed by these long-term injuries.
But you'd hope that the progress he'd made over the last few years, and especially last season too, will have kept him sort of in Roy Hodgson's mind, and he'll be thinking, next season I've got another midfielder I can count on. Because if he trusted him enough to play him last season, he must be able to, still value him as an option for next year. I know he's got at least another year left on his contract, I think with a year to extend it as well. So he's got time on his side, and I don't think Palace will be looking to sell him anytime soon.
Absolutely, this is a young lad, as you say, who has been very, very highly regarded since he was 16, 17. So, he's had injuries, and injuries are part of the game. But if he can rebuild and turn himself into the player he was, or even better than that, that he was when he was 16, 17, then you've got a real player here. Who was your other pick from Crystal Palace?
Brandon Aviero.
Same as me.
I got absolutely butchered that.
Same.
18-year-old striker. Called up to the Portugal under-18 side, even though he's got English nationality. Been attracting interest from Benfica, which, isn't a bad sort of claim to fame, is it? And then last season, he scored 15 goals in 26 for the under-18 team. And this season, he's got 6 in 8, while also featuring 16 times for the under-23s, scoring once. So not the best form for the under-23s, but he's a young player, isn't he, breaking through?
I've got here 6 goals in 8 starts for the under-18s. He looked like he started the season well with the under-18s, moved up to the under-23s, and he's yet to replicate that. But as you say, he's 18. He's a young lad, and a player I'll talk about from Liverpool at the minute hasn't replicated the same form in the under-23s, but that can just be adjusting, just like when a young player moves to the Premier League, and it takes a bit of time to adjust and become obviously the player they are. We saw with Trent, obviously he was a very good player when he first got his debut and regular starts for Liverpool, but he wasn't anywhere near the player he is now, and then it has taken time. But yeah, as you say, he signed his pro deal in 2018, and just after that scored a hat-trick for their under-18s. He looks a very, very good player. I had him down, but I've also picked Jason Lakilo. This is a player that seems to be tipped as a new Wilfried Zaha at times a couple of seasons ago when obviously Zaha obviously seems to be linked away from Palace a lot, but a couple of seasons ago, a lot of Crystal Palace fans were looking to this lad as a player that could replace him. Went on loan to Lorient though last season, only got 5 appearances. Sorry, didn't really do anywhere near as well as people hoped of him, and he's ended up on loan at Doncaster. I didn't find this out obviously until I was looking for his name earlier because I remembered him from a couple of seasons ago. I've searched him, found that out, spoke to Liam, and Liam says that he's with their development team at the minute, which is very interesting because it may be that obviously he then signs permanently for Doncaster and becomes a regular in League One. Whether Palace will insert a buyout clause, they probably will. They probably will, as many teams do with these youth players, and it'll be interesting over the next couple of years to follow this young lad. But even still, I reckon it's only a matter of time anyway before he moves to another club, and it'll be interesting to watch him. He's just a name that I've heard over the last couple of years, and it'll be interesting to follow. So yeah, those 3 names there. I think they're definitely players that we'll see. Obviously, we've seen Nathaniel Klein come through Palace system. We've seen Aaron Wan-Bissaka as well. So we might see another name come through the Palace youth system in the next few years. To move on to Everton, obviously Everton have a very, very good under-23 side, James, and there's no doubt that we both picked there's probably no shock that we've both picked a very young Anthony Gordon, who has impressed a lot and is linked with Dortmund a lot. He's the 6th youngest player to feature for the Toffees first team ever. That was when they played Apollo in the Europa League, I think 2 seasons ago now. He's had 4 first-team appearances, 19 years old, 6 goals and 2 assists in 9 games for Everton in Premier League 2 this season. I've got here, that's from Transfer Market, and he came on against Chelsea in Everton's last match. James, he looks a superb player, doesn't
he? Yeah, he's brilliant. Young attacking midfielder, 19, and he's already got 3 features for the first team this season. He's been on the bench 5 times too, so they see him as someone who is good enough to be that potential game changer who comes on late in the game and tries to maybe get a point or get the win. He's seen as that player already, and there's no surprise that Dortmund as well as Bayern Munich too are looking after him. And Everton fans seem to be so eager to see him get more game time. They really want to see him get minutes. And obviously, he signed a contract there in the season, I believe, to ward off a little bit of interest. And I think he's got a massive future at the club if they can keep hold of him. And if he can keep getting minutes, he's going to become, I think, a bit of a hero at Everton.
Absolutely, and you talk about obviously there being in the plans and how many times he's featured on the bench and whatnot this season. Now, it's obviously interesting because Everton have changed their manager during the course of the season. They've got Carlo Ancelotti, and who's one of the best managers in the world. There's no doubt. There's no arguing with that. And obviously against Chelsea in the last game, Carlo Ancelotti brought Anthony Gordon on. So I think he's a player very much in Carlo's plans as well.
Yeah, definitely. You'd hope so, because a player of that calibre can't be playing under 23 football, beyond the age of 20, really deserves to be getting minutes. And whether that means he's getting a loan next season, which I think he could definitely hold his own sort of in the Championship. But I think he's too good for League One, to be honest. He looks like a brilliant player, technically good, quite physical as well, not shy away from, bigger players than him. Plus, Everton's system seems to sort of push them to bulk up at quite an early age. When we play against them, it's almost like men against boys at times, isn't it? And the same goes for him too. Brilliant player.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, brilliant player. Everton obviously have a lot of players from their academy as well. They are a very, very good academy. They're notoriously good for bringing through players. There's players to talk about like Dominic Calvert-Lewin and Mason Holgate. You've got Tom Davis as well. Yeah. They've got quite a few players that have come through in the last couple of years. But James, who was your second pick here?
So I had Tom Cannon as my second pick, 17-year-old first-year scholar, plays up front, only turned 17 in December, but he scored 16 goals and assisted 5 in 16 under 18 matches this season. It's like the return's incredible. Like you just can't. It's hard to sort of put into words how good he's been. He's going to replace the Ellis Sims, who stepped up to under 23s, and his strike partner Lewis Dobbin, who also sort of deserves to be recognised, got 11 goals and 4 assists in 16 games this season. So their forward line is absolutely incredible. and between them, they're the reason why Everton are doing so well in the under-18s league.
Yeah, absolutely. He looks a very, very good talent. I think it's probably only a matter of time before he steps up to. As you say, they're forming maybe not quite the numbers, but they're forming a Bobby Duncan, Paul Glatzel sort of partnership up front, but for Everton's youth side. A player I picked was Lewis Gibson. I went for a different sort of position out here. I went for a centre back as we've not really picked many defenders, James. He's on loan at Fleetwood. He's been there since January. He's played 9 games for them. Seems solid. There's lots of positive things about him on Twitter. He's been named by a few accounts when I searched his name earlier as one of League One's top teenage talents at the moment. He came through Newcastle's academy but signed for Everton in 2017. He's 6'1", 19 years old, represented England at under 17, under 18 and under 20 level. It's going to be interesting to follow this lad, James. I think now Everton have got Ancelotti. It's going to be difficult for them for young players for a couple of years because obviously they're going to go down probably a new route. Ancelotti's going to be given a few transfer windows. You think he'll probably get a while at Everton to build his own team and make it his own. But he's a player that I expect will probably get another couple of loans, maybe move somewhere permanently, maybe get an opportunity for regular first team football. And I really reckon he can become a good player in the future.
Yeah, I've seen him play and he looks the real deal. He's strong in the air, he's strong in the tackle, and he commands his back line too, along with Michael Feeney, I believe it is, at the centre of their defence. They both look like very good players and they're levels above the type of centre-backs you usually see in the 23 level.
It's very interesting as well because Fleetwood under Joey Barton, they seem to get big centre-backs that obviously rough, love a tackle. But it's lad 6'1", and as you say, knows how to play, knows how to command his defence, but it can also be a ball player as well, can't he?
Yeah, definitely. He's just so confident in his own abilities, and he knows what his strengths are, and he knows how to use the players around him to maybe make up the areas where he knows he isn't as strong in, and that's probably why Everton have such a good, strong defence at youth level.
Yeah, I reckon this video is probably being used in different ways as well, James. I reckon you got a lot of people at home at the minute playing Football Manager, signing these players up as we're talking about them. But yeah, to move on now to obviously Leicester. Do you want to go first for this one? Who did you get as your first?
Well, I'll go with George Hurst. He's a 21-year-old striker, arrived in the summer from Leuven, which I think I've butchered, in Belgium. He was released by Sheffield Wednesday a few years ago. He left their academy. And in this season, for the under-23s, he scored 12 goals and assisted 3 in 20. And 6'3", big lad. And Leicester haven't really got that sort of centre-forward option, have they? So going forward, you might think that if they need a plan B and they need someone who isn't maybe going to be as direct as, they quite quick forwards, they maybe turn to him because he offers something different to their usual approach.
Yeah, it's another interesting one, this one, James, because obviously Jamie Vardy isn't getting any younger. He's getting quite now, and they've shown this season when he's been absent, they've struggled at times. Leicester, they've not been the Leicester team that they were at the start of the season when Vardy was firing. And it may be that they look for another world-class striker. Now they got Champions League football. And well, if it stays like this, it is. It may be that they turn to youth, and it may be that Brendan Rodgers trusts a youth player. We saw at Liverpool, he used Raheem Sterling in the 13-14 season. Obviously, a player that came through and was in the academy at Liverpool. So it will be very, very interesting to see what happens with that. And he's a player that may get through that way. I've got Josh Heppier as well, another versatile forward at Leicester. He's a player that was maybe more spoken about 2 years ago. He was linked to a lot of Premier League clubs a couple of seasons ago when he was 19. He's now 21. He's played 12 games in Premier League 2 this season, only scored 2 goals and 4 assists. He's a Belgian lad. 2 years ago, obviously, as I said, being looked at by a lot of Premier League 2 clubs. He's also scored 2 goals in the Leasing.com trophy as well. He's very versatile, as I say, can play anywhere across the front three, so that gives him more of a chance of breaking into that first team. James, do you think it will only be a matter of time before this lad makes the first team somewhere?
I mean, you'd hope so. Definitely in the domestic competitions. I know as a young player, we seem to say it every week, but being versatile is probably the most important thing you can have aside from ability. Because being a Route 1 player is fine. And if you're very good at it, then good for you. But teams might already be stacked in that area. They might already have, world class or top level players there who you're not going to get in front of. So being able to present yourself as another option, maybe on the other flank or down the middle, is only going to help you break into the team. And then perhaps once you're in that team getting minutes, you can then push for your favoured position. But just getting minutes and trying to impress is, the best thing for them right now, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'll go with my second pick next. I went with this. This is probably a name that a lot of people have heard of. I've gone with Darnell Johnson. He's obviously a versatile defender. They're in the 23s, captain Leicester. He's the godson of Emil Heskey. I genuinely think it's only a matter of time before this lad starts getting more first team appearances. He's a leader. He's 21, was on loan at Hibs at the end of last season, but interestingly, only got one appearance there. As I say, he's very versatile. He's represented England all the way up from under 16 to under 20 level. He's got 2 goals and an assist in 16 matches in Premier League 2 this season. And yeah, I genuinely think, obviously, Leicester are at a very good level at the minute. They're at a very good standard where they've got a very, very good defence. But I honestly think it's only a matter of time before we see this man in and around that first team at Leicester. And obviously, we've seen Ricardo Pereira do his ACL in the last few weeks. So maybe it'll create an opportunity for this lad. We don't know at this point. James, what do you think on Darnell Johnson?
Yeah, I mean, if you're made captain, you've clearly got the ability to lead the team and being seen as, one of the more mature players there. And Brendan Rodgers, as we said, does like young players. He knows how to use them. He knows how to bring them through. And whether or not he'll get consistent minutes is a different matter. But, he should be in the equation for next season. Looking forward, maybe if they've got the opportunity towards the end of this season when play resumes, we might see him make an appearance there. But with these young lads, there's no need to rush them, and you don't want to bring players in before they're ready. Maybe it means waiting a little bit longer, then fine. But obviously, you want to see them get minutes sooner, especially for us. We like seeing young players play. But yeah, it's a strange one for Leicester because they are flying high at the moment, aren't they?
Absolutely. What's your second pick?
So I had Terrell Pennant. There's not a huge amount of information on him. He's only 17 years old. No relation to Jermaine Pennant, which I made sure to check that out. He's a right winger, very quick, very direct. He's a second-year under-18 player, despite only turning 17 at the end of last year. So he started playing when he was 15. In 18 matches this season, he's got 7 goals and 4 assists. Last season, he got 3 goals and 3 assists in twice as many games. So he's clearly upped his game. Obviously, bettered himself, improved every area of how he's playing. And you expect that when he steps up next season or the season after, and the 23s, he's going to be one of the stand-up players in that division for sure.
Absolutely. He's a name that I haven't really heard much of and I don't know much about. But, a young player producing numbers like that and seems to be playing well. I think it's important to say, obviously, we don't know at this age, we don't know at 17 what he's going to bring, but he certainly looks like a very good talent. To move on to Liverpool now, and obviously an area we're obviously a lot more comfortable in. We speak about a lot of these young players a lot. It's obviously important to say that, obviously, as we talk about Harvey Elliott, Curtis Jones, Neco Williams all the time, it would be stupid of us to pick them. The 2 players I've picked, everyone will be well aware of. They're players that, you've started to hear this season, and me and James have already spoken about a lot. James has also picked 2 names that you've probably heard of. They've both, one of them played in the League Cup win against League Cup defeat, against Aston Villa in the quarter-final. Do you want to say who that one is, James?
Yeah, so I've got Tony Gallagher. He's arguably the 3rd choice left back at Liverpool's under 23s, but he's probably played more minutes than either of them combined. He's obviously seen as being behind Adam Lewis, who seems to be forever injured, as well as Larouci, who hasn't really convinced me this season. He's looked a little bit inconsistent on the left, and obviously he's been playing down the middle too as a sort of makeshift number 9. But Gallagher joined from Falkirk in 2018 for about £250,000, which is quite a big fee for a young lad. He can play anywhere across the back line. He then obviously made his debut against Villa in the Cup. And he's also recently been training with the first team as well, obviously learning from fellow left-back and fellow Scottish player, Andy Robertson. So he's someone that at the start of the season I wouldn't have pegged on as probably potential future Liverpool player. But after his form this season, he's impressed every time I've seen him play. And he's very mature, he's very confident in his own abilities, and he has that aura about him that you don't see very often at youth level. And I'd expect him to maybe push for that deputy or third choice role in the first team next season.
Well, it's like you say, he's benefited this season from injuries, hasn't he? You know, we got that start against Aston Villa because Larouci was injured, and obviously Adam Lewis was also injured. But he's impressed. He really has impressed, and he's done really well. I thought he did okay against Aston Villa. You know, he wasn't one of the players that really stood out that day, but he didn't look out of place.
A decent game,
absolutely.
Which, considering the scoreline, isn't the worst sort of label at all.
Absolutely, I think he looks very, very good, and you know, I think now Adam Lewis is back, it'll make it more difficult for him. I personally think Adam Lewis is better, but certainly more suited to left back than Larouci is for me. I do think this lad will make it, but not at Liverpool. I think he's a good left back, but as I say, I think Adam Lewis is slightly better, and I think we'll either look to Adam Lewis as a player to be the understudy for Robertson, or we'll probably sign someone which will put him more out of it. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, but that's what I think. I went with Leighton Stewart, and it's purely because I couldn't ignore this guy. You know, it's his
really hard to not include him in my list.
Exactly. It's his breakthrough season. He's 17 years old. He's got 11 goals and 4 assists in 12 matches for the under-18s in their Premier League. He's also got 2 goals and 3 matches in the UEFA Youth League and 3 appearances for the under-23s. Listen, he looks a very, very good player, this lad. He has been outstanding this season. Obviously, with what happened last season in the under-18s with Paul Glatzel and Bobby Duncan producing unforeseen numbers. You know, we were looking for someone to step up, and Leighton Stewart has done exactly that. He's got a bit of everything. He's so strong in the air. He's amazing with the ball at his feet. And you know, this kid just has absolutely everything, doesn't he, James? He doesn't look out of place in the under-23s. I know his goal tally doesn't look massive for them at the minute. He's only played 3 games. I don't believe he's scored at all. But as I said before, it takes time for these lads to adjust when they step up, and he's only 17 years old.
He's got first year scholar, isn't he? He's still a first year, which is it's ridiculous. Every part of his game, he seems to be pretty solid at, and you know, he hasn't got that sort of clinicalness yet that you see, but it's his hard work that gets him the goals. He knows when to press, he knows when to tackle, and he knows when to occupy the centre backs and let other players come into play too. Which is something that you hardly ever see at youth level. It's something that we couldn't even see in Rhian Brewster, who struggled to adapt to that role. But Leighton Stewart's gone into it and just made it look easy. Yeah,
and I obviously think he will definitely make it. You know, it's very young and it's very hard to comment on a 17-year-old. But from what he's showing right now, he looks like a star for the future. Your second pick, James?
So I had Morgan Boys, who I think people know now. He's not really household name yet. He's 18 years old, but he's Wales' under-19 captain. He's arguably been our best centre back this season at the 23 level. You know, with Van den Berg being, you know, as he is, and Hoiver playing at right back at times to cover for Nico Williams, as well as being away at the under-17s World Cup earlier on in the season. He played against Villa in the FA Cup as well, and he made his Anfield debut against Shrewsbury coming on the last minute. He's got a common presence in the defence, and he's not really the best sort of technical player. Yeah, he knows how to pass the ball, he knows when to release it, but it's his ability to tackle and his aerial sort of prowess, which makes him such a good young player. And I think the other parts of his game will come in time, but he obviously wouldn't be trusted at such a young age in that Liverpool defence if he wasn't good enough, and he wouldn't certainly be Wales under-19 captain ahead of Nico Williams too.
Again, another player that you can't doubt his ability. I think he's a very good player, and he's shown that this season. You know, there was a lot of responsibility for Sepp van den Berg. Everyone expected him to do well this season, but I think Morgan Boyers has performed better than him. I think, you know, I don't think he's a player that will make it at Liverpool. I think he'll make it elsewhere. I think he'll really benefit from a loan next season, purely because, as you say, we've got Sepp van den Berg, Kijana Hoover. We've got some very good centre backs coming through. We're also being linked with Ben White all the time. So it looks difficult for him. I also think Billy Koumetio is a man that will be a regular in the under-23s next season. I think he's an outstanding centre back. He's worth a mention in this. I honestly think Billy Koumetio will be an outstanding centre back in the future. But yeah, you can't doubt Boyes' ability, and I think he will make a good player in the future, probably for a Championship or League One side. Personally, I picked Leighton Clarkson as well, another player that a lot of people know. He's played obviously in that game against Shrewsbury, but again, it's very difficult not to pick this lad. He's a player that the first team staff at Liverpool all admire. He's trained with the first team for the majority of the season. 18 years old. He looks small. If you see this guy play live, you will think, "Oh my God, you literally look like a child." But
it's ridiculous.
His footballing ability is outstanding. It's almost like a direct comparison to Billy Gilmore, James.
Yeah, he's a similar sort of player, isn't he?
Absolutely, he's a similar sort of build, a similar sort of player. This man plays in the six. His footballing brain is outstanding. He's been praised by Pep Linders, who is also shocked at his ability. And I honestly think, again, it's only a matter of time before this lad starts getting more opportunities with the first team. As I said before, he got his first team debut against Shrewsbury. But at the start of the season, this man was a regular in the under-18s, and he was still getting praised by first team staff then. And he's recently moved up to the under-23s and then was given his first team debut. So it's been a crazy year for Leighton Clarkson, but he is outstanding, James, isn't he?
Yeah, and I also think that Jake Kane is another player who deserves a lot of praise too. He's obviously got, I think, 6 goals here and 7 assists in 12 games, and it probably would have been a lot more had he have not been called up to the 23 side. He's been on the bench for them quite a few times too to cover other players. Obviously players have gone out in January, players have been injured, and he's been chosen to make up the bench. And he's definitely one that's going to have to be watched next season because his set pieces are brilliant. His passing and shooting around the edge of the area too, superb. And yeah, he deserves a lot of praise too.
Absolutely. Well, that's it for today. We've obviously got through half the Premier League clubs now. Remember, as always, to comment if you disagree with any of our choices, if you agree with any of our choices, but more importantly, if you've got any more names for us that you want us to look into, comment below and we will have a look at them. Thanks again, James. Brilliant show. And we'll see you again tomorrow for part 3.